We're reconvening the open session, of the Clear Creek Community Services District. It's 8:28 in the evening. And in closed session, we discussed the items that were on the agenda. And under A, we report out no action. And on B, we report the board discussed an initial framework to begin discussions with the employees union. And now, starting back onto item number 5 on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Yes. It looks like there's the minutes from October 20, 2022 and January 26, 2022 to be approved. And then paid bills on the consent agenda. And I had an item on one of the minutes.
I did too, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let me, which, you want to go ahead on your item? You have a...
Okay, yeah, on the 1022, 1020 minutes, on page, 1, 2, 3, in the paragraph under E, down at the bottom of the paragraph, it says, we were talking about the Enterprise Anderson Groundwater Sustainability Agency. And it says down there at the bottom, it says, the CCCSD draws about 20,000 acre feet a year from the wells, and we do not. And we don't draw, we don't necessarily draw, we can draw up to about 2,000 acre feet a year. Yeah, around, maybe a little bit more. But it's around 2,000 acre feet a year, and we can do that. It doesn't mean we always do that, and that's what I meant when it says that.
Maybe it says only in emergency times.
Well, that's here, emergency.
So can we...
So that, did you get that, Bill? Under E, page 3, under E, report by the Enterprise Anderson Groundwater Sustainability Agency, the first paragraph, I was reporting on the EAGSA, and at the bottom, the very last sentence in that first paragraph says the CCCSD draws about 20,000 acre feet a year. We can draw about 2,000 acre feet.
I put an extra 0 in.
I'm gonna put an extra 0 in there.
Yeah, and it's kind of at our discretion.
Yeah, and it's at our discretion. You see that?
I just took the notes.
Page 6.
It's a typo.
This type of.
Yeah.
Page 3.
It'd be nice to be able to say,
Sorry?
I said it'd be nice if we could state that to be 3,000 because we up in the world.
Yeah, let me talk about that. I need to, yeah. Okay, let's discuss that. Okay, got that, and then on page 4, under F, drought penalty modification for billing period 9/14/21 to blah, blah, blah. The first paragraph, down about 4 sentences, it says, in September, the district used 7 acre feet of surface and 476 acre feet of groundwater. We can't pump that much in 1 month.
No. 198 at max.
So we
No, that should have been
to trip that.
176.
What's that?
That should have been 176.
Oh, 176. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. The reason I bring that up is because somebody can go back to the minutes and say, well, you say you can do this. Well, we can't do that.
Yeah, the Bureau of Reclamation.
Yeah.
Especially giving us.
Yeah, that's right. You could come back and say, you said you could do this, so we're not giving you anything. Which they're probably not gonna give us anyway. Anyway, that's it, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
very good. I had one change too. Just making note of this. change was on page 13 of the agenda packet, understanding committee reports B, from the January meeting minutes, because that's where we're at. And it's relating to the this, last sentence under B. Says if 75% of customers use less than 2,900 cubic feet a month, and it should say if 75% of customers use is less than 2,900 cubic feet per month.
What document are we talking about?
Minutes,
Minutes
For January?
Yeah,
for January 26th, right?
yeah.
And what page?
Let me go to the page. I was using the PDF of the page number, sorry. My bad. And it is page number, just scroll down to 5.
Okay.
So understanding committee is the third paragraph, second to last sentence. If 75% of customer use is less than 29.
So what's the change in that?
Just adding an IS between use and less.
75% of customers use
less than.
It's use.
Yeah.
Is less.
less, oh, use is less, oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Just it
sense.
helps it, kind of the intent there. That's all I
They
had.
would, yeah, so, yes, yes.
Any other changes on the minutes?
Not for me,
Any changes on the comments on the bills?
no.
Any, comment from the public on the
Okay,
consent item?
okay, we're finished with the minutes?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, on the expenditures, there's some coding issues, that need to be addressed, but I didn't see anything wrong with the expenditures themselves.
Okay. Coding issues. Are those gonna be easy to fix?
Nothing's easy.
Okay.
Can you explain what you mean by coding issues?
Where they use their own account code.
All right.
Well, if everybody is copacetic, I would move approval of the consent agenda as modified.
Thank you for that. Second? Second. Second, I'll call the question. Director Schreiber?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Wasn't that momentous at all, was it? Okay, and now on to, item number 6, new business, old business. Up first is the ordinance 2021-04, new water year penalty enforcement. This is a discussion and action item. So you want to kick us off here? Starting almost to a new water year.
Yeah. Sorry, after 8:30. In January, the finance committee met and came up with a new drought format based on 75% of the customer's monthly use from 2019. The new formula was based on getting 1,500 acre feet from the McConnell Foundation and some water from other sources, city ready. Allocations from the Bureau will most likely be issued next week, between the 20th and the 24th, and we're expecting 0 water allocation for both CAG and MI. That scenario means we're gonna rely heavily on the wells and any other water transfers we can secure. Since we do not know how much surface water we have secured headed into the new water year, which in theory started yesterday, and today with the metering. The director should discuss what we should do moving forward, for at least this month, until we get a better look at how much water we have. Due to the warm and dry weather, uses continue to increase. 61 acre feet, and we're on track for at least 100 acre feet in February.
Which is
So,
up from a normal year.
so we're down from a normal year. We're, still in a drought, but we're coming off of a drought year. So use is naturally down. Well, I shouldn't say naturally, it just is down. The board should consider that we have a ordinance in place, but the penalties of that ordinance are set at 0. We don't see any rain really in the forecast. So, the director should consider some sort of enforcement, until we get our allocation from the Bureau. We know how much water we have secured from McConnell and City of Raymond. By the way, the McConnell Foundation did reach out to us. They're gonna sell us water. We're on the list, but they don't know how much water we're gonna get. We were first in line, but.
Oh, that's good.
Wait.
Well,
Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. It's late. I'm gonna turn it over to you guys. So,
Right. Yeah, the lack of clarity with respect to how much surface water we're going to be able to acquire, either from the Bureau or McConnell or City of Reading, makes this time of year, where we know we're in a drought, the emergency still pretty much exists. There's, 24% in Shasta Lake, and no rain on the horizon. Prior to this week, some pretty darn warm temperatures. It's really challenging. I'm optimistic that we will have, I don't know that Bill shares my optimism, but that's all right. I'm optimistic that we will acquire the estimates that I was hoping to get at the beginning of this year, or beginning of this water year, where we could go with 75% of the 2018-19 water year. Those aren't secured yet, and if you look at it from a pessimistic perspective, letting our guard down early in the year could create some problems that we might not ever catch up to. The historical use in 2018 was, for example, in March of that previous year was 75 acre feet, which you think March, but then we just went ahead and used 100 acre feet in February this year. So it makes you wonder if that's a reliable estimate to go with. The wells do produce 186 acre feet if they're running full, but I'm not sure that if demand isn't full on, then you can't necessarily run them full on, and so any day you miss running full on, you're going to miss 100, getting to 186. The estimate for 76% of the 2018 demand in acre feet, with even folks with everyone assumed to be using at least 2,900 cubic feet, would be 169 acre feet in March. That's what I estimated it at. So that puts us within striking distance of the well capacity, depending on how those operate, etc. However, so that sort of leans towards, well, we'll just waive penalties. We'll go another month, see where we end up. If it's a dry March, that could bite us in the tail end. The only way we could take corrective action if things were getting away from us under those conditions would be a special meeting, and then try to slam on the brakes. So you'd be sending mixed messages at the beginning of the month to your customers, And, I'm not sure that that is a prudent approach, leading into this water here. I'd much rather start slow, you know, with a lid on the fire, and then give it some oxygen, than give it oxygen and have it blow up on us, and then we're trying to put the lid back on and create all that angst. So I'm thinking that somewhere the solution, as a way of kicking off the water year, would be to, our drought penalty ordinance is in place. The penalty table is pretty aggressive, and it's geared towards, you know, a district that was, you know, in a critical situation and needed to take drastic action. So that penalty schedule for next month, in my opinion, is a little strong for our current conditions. But I think that a penalty of some description needs to be in place, and maybe a flat penalty might be a good thing to have in place for folks that exceed 2,900 cubic feet. But not make that penalty so much so that if you went through it, you're not like, gosh, dang, of course I'm going to go through it, because look at how hot it is, and man, you guys can pump the water and keeping us at, you know, you're probably going to get allocated water, you know, all the angst that you're going to feel when that moment arises, you blow past 29. At least some of us, I probably will, not blown by it, but you know, it was hot last month, you know, so I'm hoping we get water allocated, because 29, I don't want to operate another year at 29 ACF, right? That was, well, we won't be, because we're going to get something from a common, we just don't know what, and probably something from writing, we don't know what. So I would entertain ideas from the board in terms of, if we left the 29 ACF as the limit for customers this month, what would be a fair penalty to just kind of keep in place, kind of keep the lid on that fire in terms of usage for this month, with the understanding that we will have a lot more certainty next meeting when we have the allocations from the different water agencies divulged to us, and we can make a lot firmer estimate of what percent usage we can afford to safely, you know, allocate to customers. So I'm open ideas.
Okay, can I throw?
Yeah.
an idea out? I've spoken to a few people about this, and a couple of things come to mind. Number one, the ordinance that we have, I haven't talked to anybody that likes the penalty list, you know, because it just doesn't work very well. But I also talked to some people that don't like the idea of a single penalty, like $50. Because if you put a penalty of, say, $50 on, anybody goes over $50. So here I am, I'm a guy that's got a house, I don't have a farm, and so I go, instead of using 29 acre HCF, I use 30. I get dinged $50.
Yeah.
My neighbor's got a farm over there, he goes over 400, he gets dinged $50. That's unfair, totally unfair. And when I brought that up to people, they went, "You're kidding." Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just talking to you about it. So I'm not in favor of that. But I'm not in favor of this other thing either. Maybe there's gotta be something in between.
I think that's why we came up, or the committee came up with the 75% to kind of cover some more bases and then adjust the penalty structure. But we can't do that now. This is just to get us.
Right, exactly. I understand that.
Yeah, the plan that the committee came up with would be to, come up with a penalty structure that's based on a percentage of your usage in a normal year.
So your exceeds,
allocation,
yeah, would occur when you exceed 75% or whatever percent we can.
Can can you, track that?
I've got, my attention got pulled away, I'm sorry. One
Oh,
more time.
you know, my understanding is, what you're saying is that, they go back to 2019, and if, no, I don't know where I'm going with it.
75%.
75%, so everybody would be allocated 75% of what they used in 2019.
That, yeah, 18-19 volume, yep.
Yeah, and if you did that, how much water would you use in March?
You use 169.
Yeah.
169 acre feet?
Yep.
We could pump that from the wells, couldn't we?
That's where we're at right
So
now.
now, my question is, can you track that with your software to determine how much each customer is allowed?
Based on 75%?
Based on 75%.
We can, the programming has not been completed for that, because we don't know that we're even gonna have 75% of our 2018 water, or 2019.
Yeah.
So, because we don't know what that number is, we stopped
No,
until we know. So it's gonna take a few weeks to get a program.
well, by that time, the billing has already gone by, you know, so what do we do? Because we're talking about doing some kind of adjustment from today for the month of March.
This would be,
Month of March, right?
so in place accounting right now is the same as what we've got going on right now under the drought ordinance, which is everyone's supposed to be at 29,
Right.
whether they receive a penalty, or they come protest, and we've just been waiting because we've had water, we've been waiting the penalty. So the accounting really doesn't change any rolling into this month, from February 16th to March 15th. The accounting won't change. What Bill's gonna have to get into place, and we'll be able to do that with the water allocations revealed to us, is a methodology to assign a percent to every customer, a flat percent to every customer, and it'll vary based on their, use behavior, and they would much less likely exceed their allocation, because, unless you're
Yeah.
using less than 29,
Well, we don't know.
you're likely gonna be using a lot, using more. So then, my thought was, the extent with which we change the drought penalty, table would be, some of it's constrained by programming, because we've decided on, 8 or whatever categories. We can modify those 8 fairly easily, within that thinking, but not this month. So I'm thinking that, and I don't know what to do about the $50 bill. Somebody gets 31, and someone else is 400, and, as a proportion of a penalty, certainly if you use more, you're penalized proportionately less. That's real, but I'm not sure, how much staff time it would take to do the math, to find the percent and multiply it
Why
by
don't we just waive the
$50.
penalty for the month of March?
You are bold.
Where's your
Because we don't know what the allocation is yet, and, it gives us a month to work on the allocation and figure out how to do this. And
So let me get this straight in my mind.
Mhm.
Okay, as an ag person, I'll be using more. I will, yeah. So I will
Hope to
get
be using more.
75% of what I used in 2019.
That's what we're hoping.
You might. If we get,
If we get allocated,
Hey.
if we
Yeah.
can secure the water,
okay.
we're gonna make it based on percent, not just 29 ACF.
yeah,
And anyone that's working under 29 ACF, get 29 ACF, at least. So if your 75% of your 2018-19 use puts you at 15, you still get 29. So that you're not, because what if you're at 15 during 2018-19, you're down at 3 or something in the middle, it just doesn't make any sense. So
No,
and that water's available, that proportion of water's available from the pumps, and it just makes a ton of sense.
I think what Erwin has suggested for the month of March, because they'll read the meters on the
March 15th. I think
15th.
it's 15th.
So you're kind of in favor of no penalty?
No penalty.
Yeah.
Until we find out
Because
what our
we're going to
allocation
have
is
a
and we
board
can-
meeting
we
in the
can do this
meantime.
better.
Alright, okay, I think we're getting across purposes here, you know, with this ordinance is in effect until we change it to
Correct.
something that's gonna be based on
Right.
percentages. So, you know, this ordinance says that we're gonna publish this penalty table.
Mhm.
So the question is, do we impose this penalty table, or, you know, as the first violation, or do we not put in any? But this is really only gonna affect the month of March,
Right,
just the one bill.
and I'm suggesting to
Because
the
we
board that
should-
we just waive the penalty for the month of March.
Okay.
Because
Just read the tea leaves. We're not gonna go over what.
I don't think so.
I said, as far as the penalty.
This guy flies airplanes, just throw the, just put the blinders on and go up.
People are in the conservation mode, you know, you can see that, they are. We realize that we're in a drought, you know, it's been hammered into our heads for the last few months, and we understand that now, and people are cutting back.
A little more discussion up here, and then I'm gonna come to the public.
Yeah, the board.
I think what's truly unfortunate has been this last month, whether it's, you know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, however long it's been, we were having some rain, started early, put the fires out, and now here we go, and this is looking almost worse than last year. I don't know if that's true, but that's true. See, this is truly unfortunate. And so do we have any guess, you know, with the numbers, what did you say it was, 129, of how that, I mean, how does that correlate to last year, where we ran through the water right out of the box?
I don't have that number.
I mean, we ought to know that, just to be able to compare, what, 129 versus what we used last year.
165 is what my guess was.
How many did I have last year's? Last year was, we were using more in a drought last year than we were in a year, so I don't think we should talk about.
We didn't.
No,
get into
but
the
I
drought
mean,
till
for the month,
late
for
in
the
the
month
year.
of February,
Or
or,
shouldn't use those numbers.
I'm just trying
They were
to.
high, they were high. We used 100, maybe close to 200 acre feet last February.
Okay,
In
so
March.
we're below the water consumption this year
Mhm.
at this time
Yeah.
versus last year.
Yeah.
So, that's good news. I don't know how we used that much last year.
Because we didn't have anything in place.
We didn't have a green last year.
And then we didn't have a rate structure that did either, so we really.
The water was a lot less expensive and we didn't have.
So-
Why don't you ask the people? Their
Well, you
Okay,
guys.
I was just letting these
discussion.
two finish out what they're
Right.
discussing.
Well, we'll move and close.
Okay.
The board.
We're gonna bring it back for more discussion, we just gotta get it's good, if you've sat out and listened to boards discuss, it's always nice to, sometimes boards will open up a thing, and then they'll hear from the public, and then they'll bring it back. And then they'll talk, and the public has no chance to understand what the board is thinking, and then your comments you don't know what the board members are thinking, so you can't influence how you think they're thinking, because you have no idea. You just say some stuff, and then you realize, holy smokes, they're thinking this when they close public comment. So I like to discuss, I like to see boards where they discuss, send it to the public, come back and discuss. Because then you guys know where our heads are when and you may see big gaps in our thinking that you're like, wow, you guys need to think about this. And so it's better for us, I think, too. So, more comments? Chuck?
No,
Slash it up.
we'll kick it out.
I'm not finished.
Dave's not finished.
Yeah, sorry, Dave, who?
Where's that microphone? Okay, all right, there's two things here. First one is, like I said, I've never agreed with completely getting rid of the penalty. I always thought there should be something in there, even if it's a minimal, just to keep this at the forefront. So, then, you know, the other thing is, like I said again, last year where there were waivers for everything, and, you know, it basically didn't mean anything. You know, I think, you know, we need to get the word out that, you know, it's gonna be enforced, and, you know, there are gonna be penalties, and you have to comply, get a letter out, get something out, and say, this is real, you're not gonna be able to get, a waiver because you didn't wanna reduce your water usage. So like I said, we need to get out this is a real issue, and it's gonna require, real work on your part to make it work.
And if I may interrupt, I believe that what Bill had said was that you did, make reference to that, is that correct? About waivers,
No.
that we weren't gonna be as forgiving as we were this year in comparison to last year.
Well, I think I brought it up in other conversations that not everybody's gonna get a variance, and not
Okay.
everybody's gonna be able to protest the penalty. We were pretty lenient with that, with good intentions, but I mean, it did overwhelm us.
So is that,
Yeah, I mean, one of the recommendations we have would be change the wording to say that, you only get a variance or forgiveness, if it's, something out of your control, like a line break, just the fact that you thought you needed to keep your lawn green is not a reason to get, relief from the penalty.
so we don't have the language in this at this time that you're looking for?
Well, we're gonna completely review this and hopefully bring a new one in.
We need to draft something for next month.
But, no, this is just,
A warrant.
this is basically just a continuing, like I said, the ordinance from last year is in effect until it's withdrawn.
I thought maybe.
So, and then, then it takes, what, the 30 days or so to do that, so.
So we should probably circulate this ordinance in a Word document to the directors. And if they have an epiphany, late night, can't sleep, wanna do some,
And is that,
red line.
that's for the new ordinance?
For the new ordinance.
Right, and I thought we did that, we did. Should we-
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if it's informational and it just goes out and just comes back to you and it's not circulated amongst.
No, we had a committee, the finance committee, that talked, we workshopped the new drought ordinance.
Let me look that up.
And we-
I'm brain dead here.
We did already
I was-
did.
Let me look.
And so we have edits.
Let me look for it.
We're ready to pounce. We just don't have the water to land in.
Okay, here we go. Thanks for that reminder. Let me see what it says. How crazy is it?
We covered everything we want, the end result.
Yeah, I don't know if we did we do I don't know that I'm just looking real quick here. You're right, we did bring this prior to,
Was it a Zoom meeting? Was it Zoom?
I slept with the last one.
yeah, okay, yeah, we do have something, it's just not, it's probably worth looking at again. Anyways, so, your point is, you're thinking that you'd like to keep a little more lid on the fire going into this year, this next
Yeah,
year,
at
until we have
least-
some more certainty.
Yeah, at least, put the customers on notice that,
And what do you think, what do you think the penalty should be? So do you want one penalty or the whole table?
I would think that just, since it's a new water year, we could, use, the first time the $50 flat,
$50 flat, yeah.
or you could use the table to,
Yeah, I don't
the
know.
table
don't
may
wanna-
cause more problems.
I don't wanna use the table, not this
Yeah.
one. I don't think that's a good way to go. The $50 is, would be rough for someone that uses 30, and not so rough for someone that uses 100.
There's gotta be some forgiveness.
Bill,
Well, the $50 is the wake up call.
Yeah, that is, it does. I mean, if you can't make that 29, if we don't get allocation, we're gonna get something from a comment, we just don't know what. The rest is completely up in the air. And if you can't, well, you should be able to make 20, most people should be able to make 29 pretty easy in March, I think. They were making it in June last year.
I would think so. We're just on this,
Some people were.
we're just on this upward trend. We went from 40 acre feet to 50 to 70 to, now we're on track for 100. The director suggested to have no penalties because we could cover the water potentially. Certainly if we got some rain, that would slow everything down on its own.
We could, I still have to call a special meeting and then try to slam the brakes on this thing, you know, that's supposed to be.
Bill, do you know off the top of your head how many went over this past month?
Oh, I don't.
I mean, you know,
It was 217.
217?
How many?
217.
217, okay.
Customers went over 29? I thought that'd be a low number. I thought it would be much higher
Here
than
you
that.
got 2,700, 2,710.
Based on
Yeah,
that,
that's
I
a
think we
fraction.
only have
5%, 7, 6%?
Almost.
So what's that, 2,700?
2,710. So let's see, I'll tell you what it is right now.
Understand some of those are inactive meters.
217. About 0.08%.
Close to
Look at that.
All
Alright, so,
Exactly.
so the folks that are turning it, like, yeah, were they big numbers, or were they, I mean, the 2710, were they, like, people were letting their hair down?
I think
8%.
I have the paper. I can go get it.
Just, I don't know, general impressions.
It was. I think the majority were the top tier.
What's that mean?
The highest over 100.
The greater than 100.
Okay, so most people are within the strictures of the ordinance, and then there's 100 and some odd folks out there that are
using all.
putting the gas to her, which didn't cause us harm because we had the water.
We have the water, and it's dry. I mean, it was 80 degrees.
Yeah, and we well, if we can keep the, wow, the problem is will the behavior of the rest of the community waiving it again?
It's just not fair to those people who really need the water and want to use the water. And that's where, Joanna comes up. You know, it's not fair. It's not. And then for there not to be a penalty, that's where we're stuck once again. And there's no simple way to break the pattern.
Not to make it simple. I mean, you could get wild and crazy with proportional distribution of the penalty and whatnot, but that's just a whole bunch of paperwork. You guys would be like, going nuts again. So it sounds like most people will not incur the $50 penalty, Erwin, that are using a small amount, and those that are going over substantially enough that it's not the rest of the rate schedule, but, you know, the notice still goes out that we are in a tight year, and, you know, there's a ton of uncertainty, and we're trying to be cautious, and your conservation is still worth something. Your conservation is worth $50 a month.
Should there be a help to those, just in general, about people who use over the 100, that they're making it harder for the rest of us who are, you know, less than that.
Well, yeah, so if we were at 75 acre feet, would we just waive the things out, or waive the penalty out in front? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, that's an excellent idea.
If
It is. That's an excellent, there you go. I love that.
What-
And then we'll kick it back to the community, see what they have to say, and that's, you know, a shot.
So you're saying that if you don't go over a certain amount, the penalty would be waived? But if you go over
But
a
then
certain amount, then the $50.
That's
penalty-
29 right now.
Don't we have to go through the procedure?
I'd like to open it up to the public and hear what they have to say. Scott,
I do
you wanna
too.
lead us off on that?
Sure, three aspects that I think are important to consider. Don't forget any change There's a 30-day period, that's in the ordinance. Okay?
There's a what?
30-day waiting period, you've gotta remember that, so the more you delay doing anything, you've got an additional 30 days, or when the next meter reading is past 30 days. We ran into that problem last year, and we didn't get until September or whatnot before we started hitting this. So being more proactive is a good idea.
Wait, are you talking about a water short, declaring a water shortage?
No, changes to the drought rates. Penalties are penalty.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the drought rate, the 121?
Well, that's for water, but if they change the penalties or anything in there, isn't there by the ordinance a 30-day waiting period, notification of the
No, because
information?
we have the drought, or the water shortage emergency declared.
Right,
And so we're just modifying,
yeah,
so the directors were lenient this last winter to set the penalties to 0. And we said, well, we would have to, every time we did that, we would have to post this in the paper for 1 day, I believe it is.
I thought it was 30 in the
No.
ordinance.
I think it's a day, and that was like $1,000, it was like $900 to post this.
Well, not if you, eliminate the penalty, but if you change the penalty.
Not the drought rate, but the actual penalties, which you guys are talking
Yeah,
about.
the drought rate is with a 30-day notice, you are correct, the drought rate, the 121, if that were to go up or down.
I thought it included the penalties, so any changes made, you have to publish them, and it still took 30 days.
Well,
because-
the penalty's part of the ordinance,
Yeah.
which,
The drought ordinance.
The drought
Part of the drought ordinance.
Okay.
The drought rate is part of
Just wanna
the.
make sure that we're doing it right.
yeah, I appreciate you.
Because you
Ring
don't
the
wanna
bell, yeah.
find out that, oh, we got a good order again because we give
Yeah,
them 3 days.
thank you.
The other aspect is obviously, posting is only $500, but are you gonna go to Fry and make a change now, and then a month or 2 later, make another change and spend another $3, $4, whatever $1,000 for them? That's money that may not be best spent. And the other aspect, and because I've been in the office, the staff was drowned with variances and protests for penalties and whatnot, and they're just trying to get their heads above water now. I think it would be a disservice to them to bury them in it again. Those are the 3 aspects I wanted you to consider.
Thank you.
So to reiterate, the noticing relative to changing the penalty schedule for the ordinance is, did you say it again, Bill?
I believe we have to post the whole ordinance for today.
Or so we waive it, or we have to
Oh, technically, if we waive
make
it,
a motion and then
technically, if
post
we waive it
it?
to 0, we keep it at 0, we're supposed to post that, in the paper.
Okay.
But we said, well, who was gonna challenge it going to 0?
But if we decided to change the penalty instead of $50, which is in our ordinance, to $100, that would take 30 days.
Or
No.
we change that
Yes.
scale from the 200 for.
Yep, and it changes
That would
scale.
require a whole
30 days.
ordinance if you were to.
Look it up.
That's right,
30 days.
probably in the ordinance.
Where are we at then?
Okay, you're on.
Our rate right now is 121. And then what is it under the drought? Is it like 190 something?
We
Is
don't
it-
know.
That is the drought rate,
Okay,
And
it's
Per
121.
unit.
okay.
You're thinking 93 cents was the,
Yeah, so that's not very good. So what if we're allocated the 29 units after 121? Cool, we go over it, we get charged double the unit, over, up to 10 units. Then at that point, you're probably being overly about it.
Your rate structure.
You're probably being overuser, and then actually put it into a more hard set penalty structure where it's being like the 50, the 100, and so on and so forth. Because 10 units isn't like an egregious user, you might just have animals and it's hard to stay under because it's hot.
Yeah.
And so you're not like being terrible, but you're still getting penalized because you're not paying double your usage. So your 29 units is $1.21, and then you're paying $2.42 or $2.50 a unit for the next 10.
And there's your 30 days.
Yeah, you're talking
And
about the rate, you're talking about the rate per 100 cubic foot. So you're saying that when you go over a certain amount,
If you go over your 29 units,
then the rate would go up?
right, you would just pay double a unit for the next 10 units, and then at that point, you would go into penalty of being an
I'm
egregious
afraid that would
user.
take a Prop
That
218
would
here.
be Prop 218.
Well, shit.
Well, water, you can pick that up. Yes.
It wasn't me, Shane, do it.
She tried.
I'm not at work, I don't care. Good enough.
There are some pitfalls.
There are pitfalls. And it takes time.
So, just to recap, Dave, you're thinking drop penalties in place, $50 penalty across the board.
That's my suggestion.
Whatever is not problematic. For us.
Yeah, that's
And then that is
With-
the possible.
That's the second one, whatever's not problematic.
Well, you made a valid point. We don't wanna spend a bunch of time trying to figure this out. Also creating extra paperwork in the office, so we've really gotta balance that out and figure out how to make it as simple as possible. And that's part of our workshopping, what we started with.
I wish everyone could get an email, we can keep people apprised of where we are water-wise for the month. See, but there's, like you say, so there's 1,900 people, 1,950 customers that are under 29 regardless, they're just there right now. Even last month, that's amazing.
People know, they know that it's in our best interest.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we are gonna have to consider the high end to some extent. TJ, have you got like a sort of number on the high end? Is, let's say 100. Is 100 gonna work out?
Right now, I've been doing amazing, and I've done 6 and 7.
600 and 700 acre feet?
No.
6 and 7.
Units.
Wow.
67 or 6 and 7?
6 and 7.
Okay, so
It's not hot.
you made
But
clear.
it's not hot,
Yeah.
Okay.
you know, and I'm
It was hot
spending,
last month.
We're only talking
no, it
about.
wasn't that hot.
Nice or still cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm spending $1,400 every 2 weeks for hay.
Yeah.
But I didn't water the pasture last year either, but hay wasn't $1,400 a week.
I'm just trying to get a feel for 75. You know,
Percent.
if 75 is kind of a breakover, or if we wanna do it at 100 is a breakover point, where we need to figure out some type of policy.
You're talking units used.
He's talking units, he's not talking percentage, he's talking units.
Well, that would change the drought ordinance from 29 to 75.
Well,
Yeah.
but for where we stand today, and where this thing goes, I think we're gonna have to anticipate, maybe more of this drought, if something doesn't change this year. We need to be looking at, the next year. This is,
Yeah, you can't just keep watching one year.
Absolutely.
You need to start.
Long.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
but start
to
looking.
bribe Bill McConnell.
Can't
We
do one
better
year at a time.
get
You
our
have to
world
free up what
Correct,
possibly
that's
may
right.
happen.
that's right. So when we start looking at this year, and we judge it, then we're gonna, if we're tied to the 218, we've gotta go through the process, and we've got a workshop, how we're gonna come up with a working document, that we as a board need to be responsible, and we need from the community ideas on how we're gonna put together, a better policy than we've got from last year. And I intentionally have been trying to keep this, because we debated about whether we were gonna keep this, keep kicking it down the road. We've been kicking it down the road and not just ending it, and that was a smart decision. And that I did in the office and with the community. That was my suggestion. And there was a little bit of debate, but we stuck with it, and that's a good thing.
I'm kind of leaning towards being bold and waiving the penalty.
Oh, that's fine.
And just
One billing period.
for one more billing period, and just take a knee and you know what? Leave it to Bill to make that work for us. It's just not entirely, it is a little unfair, but, But you know, with an estimate, and I don't, shit, my estimate's horseshit anyways, but I had 169. We used 75 in 2018, we came up a wet year though, that's why it was low in those days. It's dry now, and we still were coming off of some residual, but there was drying in the surface of the soil last month for sure. And yeah, you were thinking I should turn the water on here. And so the fact that so many folks stayed under 29, I'm surprised, but that's gonna go up from 100 this next month. It'll go up from 100, is it gonna go up 200 to 200? And then, I guess on the downside, we would, well, hell, I mean, we don't have any surface water to draw on right now, period. We are
Well, I mean.
zero going into
Yeah, it's, I mean.
March, we don't have any allocation.
Yeah, you're clean up?
So that means you need.
So technically, we have to be at 186 or we're screwed.
Any more input from the community?
Yeah, I've been working on it, just, man, let me get organized and get my knee going.
Okay. Wow, that is a kind of a harsh reality there, isn't it? Wow, that's brutal. Zero.
I think you needed something in the newsletter and say you're gonna institute it again, because I think you're gonna have to.
We put something in the newsletter saying something, I can't remember. We did. We put something in the newsletter, saying this is coming. Keep an eye out, check in with
All
staff,
across, drought continues,
but
worse.
My name is Sandy Winters, I've been out here 63 years, this is my 54th year, starting my 55th year with the water district. We've had droughts 75, 76, 77, 89, 90, 91, always 3 years in a row, it seems like. 2008, 2009, 2013, 2014, and 2015, and here we go with 20 and 21. Probably 22 this year. I wish Dennis Posen was here. He sent me an email today that he got from the main water district at Shasta Dam with a lot of figures on it, and they're so tiny they're hard to read. But they stated that we won't even do a post flow this year. It's that bad. Can you believe that? 7,900 acre-feet of water that won't go down the river to the fish.
Thank God,
yeah,
Yay.
Well, they sent so much down this year, they messed themselves up. They almost emptied all the dams.
Yeah, today they were testing the equipment up at Crystal Creek Falls to see what they were letting out huge flows into the lake. I can imagine the turbidity today, after all that water going in there. We haven't had any rain to settle the turbidity that's in the lake now. But I just wanted to read a couple of my amounts here. In 2016, this was right after the drought, and then the cooler, excuse me, from about November through March, Don and I can get by with about 2 units, because we don't feed a lot of animals then, we don't have a garden, and we're not irrigating our pasture. We run 2-inch irrigation, 31 joints of 2-inch irrigation pipe during a normal year, and that's about 8 acre-feet of water that we need in order to keep our place green. Right now, our place is turning brown. We're losing our pasture because of all this frost inversion and lack of water. And it goes from warm, it grows just a teeny bit, then here's the frost again. No water, no rain. But 2016 May, we used 700 units. In June, we used 322 units. July, 463 units. Not last year. Last year we didn't use anything because we weren't irrigating at all. August, 554 units. And August and September are usually our peak months for irrigating with the sprinkler pipe. And we have a garden, so we're running drip line too. September, 397 units. October, 147, see, we're starting down. Usually by then our garden's pretty much slacked off and we might have sold the cattle off by then. November, we're down to 43. December, 2.
What were you in March?
March, 2,
Because it was wet.
yeah.
What about April?
See,
Could
we're
you
not
just-
irrigating now.
Yeah, but what about April? I'm just wondering when.
April 4, we're starting up again.
Yeah, so.
But there's been years where it rained clear up into June, and
Yeah.
so we didn't start irrigating till June. And, in that 99, we had that horrible El Nino. Happy Valley was flooded. Telephone poles, you couldn't even tell where the road was. It was water from bank to bank, clear across. That was a lot of water going up the Sacramento River. So, it looks to me like we got one more year of it, historically. So, I hope I'm wrong. But, we'll just have to see, I guess, what McConnell and City Rains may give us, but it doesn't look like we're gonna use it for irrigation this year. We don't have a whole lot left to irrigate, actually. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sandy, do you think you'd use 75% of your 2018-19 allocation if it was available?
Well, Don and I have learned to adapt over the years in order to survive in our advancing age. And, I'm sitting around the chair. So, yeah, 75% would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And what would that number be at 75% for you? Do you have any guesses at that?
You want the month or the whole irrigation season or what?
How does that work?
there's monthly numbers, at least they have monthly.
So-
Well, we could take 75%,
So she'd have to add up,
let me get 2020.
a whole year and.
You'd have to be after 20.
Well, she said she used
It's
400 and something 1 month, so if you just make it 400, she would be getting 300.
That would be our high use.
But that'd only be for about 4 months.
Yeah.
You'd have
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, the rest are low numbers, so that just
about.
about, I don't know.
Let me find 2020.
So probably 4 months of 300, 4 months of 100, and 4 months of 5 or less.
Yeah, so,
Those breakdowns that way.
yeah,
17. What month did you want, March?
No, I think we figured it out.
My
We just did a rough
highest in 2017 was 759 cubic feet. August is
So-
always my high use. August, and then September goes down a little bit if we're getting any rain. Believe it or not, we have had rain in September. It goes down, and then by
Plan for the
November and
worst,
December,
hope for the
we're not using hardly any water.
so, anyone want to entertain a motion?
Hey, I'd like to make a motion. I've been waiting to do this for quite a while.
Good.
I would make the motion
Mhm.
that we waive the penalty for the next month, for the month of March, and that when the allocations finally come out, which are gonna be in the next few days, and we determine how much water we're actually gonna get from the, McConnell Foundation and the city of Reading, and add that in with the well water that we can use. Once those figures are in, then and part of my motion is that the finance committee sit down with and have a meeting, with the interim general manager, and come up with a modified penalty, drought ordinance and penalty structure. Then that will be brought to the board, and the board, if it approves it, would wait 90 days before, 30 days before it went into effect. That's my motion.
Okay, I'm not sure that the 30 days is necessary on an ordinance.
changing the
No.
drought rate might be.
The drought
change
rate,
at 121.
yeah, the drought rate is different, but the ordinance, I don't think you need this 30-day requirement.
Yeah, I don't think that's what his motion.
Well, that's what he said this.
No.
Okay, Director.
No, let me do it again. Let me do it again.
It's two parts.
It's two parts, yeah. The first part is that my motion is that we waive the penalty for the month of March. And that when the allocations are finally delivered to us in a few days,
24th, yeah.
before the end of this month, that the finance committee convene a meeting and with Bill's help, devise a schedule of penalties that will, by the way, we also include the 75% of whatever the allocation would be, because you can do that in the drought ordinance, and a new penalty structure, and bring that back to the board in, after the committee, bring it back to the board in, what's the next month? March. And if the board will approve it, it could take effect in 30 days.
We don't have to wait.
The 30 days is not part of this.
Yeah, you gotta wait 30 days to be changed the penalty. I'm afraid so.
I think it's.
Check it out. Check it out. You gotta wait 30 days to be changed the penalty.
Okay, can we just make a motion to?
Well, I just made a motion. Why don't you wait, see if you get a second.
I'll second.
All right, now
Hold on a minute.
okay. Now we can discuss it. We have a motion and a second. Now we can discuss it.
I think that maybe to simplify, we simplify the one motion. The motion into just the one part, which is the waiving the penalty.
Okay.
Can we tangle with that?
Oh, I can do that. I'll separate. Yes, my motion then would be to waive the penalty for, the month of March. With the second?
I'll second.
Okay, now we can vote on that, or discuss that.
The motion should be that to waive the penalty for the next billing period.
Next billing period.
Which would be from February 5th, the middle of February to the middle of March, and that bill comes out at the beginning of the year.
Right,
That's my motion.
okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a first and a second, right?
Yep, got a motion and a second.
All right.
Motion and a second.
Do we have a,
Any more discussion?
I'll call the question, Director. Shannon.
Aye.
Aye. Dave.
Because we can bring it
Okay,
I'm not sure.
Cedric, you can't say no.
so now we waive the penalty, this board has waived the penalty for, the next billing
Cedric didn't
period.
vote.
Correct.
So, I won't make a motion, but I would make a suggestion that since we're gonna get the new allocation, excuse me for mooching around a bit, but back hurts. Since we're gonna get the allocation in the next few days, that the allocation be worked out by Bill and some suggestions to the finance committee who sits down and looks at that and determines a better drought ordinance penalty situation that can be brought back to the board. This drought ordinance that we have right here stinks.
Voted it in.
The penalties don't work.
Bill, recognize.
We had a Zoom meeting, the finance committee, and we hammered out, if we were to get 75%, we hammered out the new wording of the ordinance,
Okay.
and we're just waiting for water.
Okay,
And really, we just need to input that number in there, and it's probably gonna be, let's say, pretend it's gonna be 65%.
that's right, you guys met, so,
63.4%.
so bring it to the board, let's vote on
And
it.
so, we are so ready to like finalize it, I don't think we need to necessarily have another meeting, correct?
Okay, There you go.
Correct.
Will the tunnel foundation or?
It ain't pretty, it ain't pretty.
You did
Change
It ain't pretty, it ain't pretty. It is not
We-
pretty.
We came up with something to present to the board. So we already came up with something to present to the board from that,
Yeah.
from that committee. Do we wanna have another committee meeting to?
Oh, no, I'm not
Okay.
suggesting that. You got you've been to the committee, and the committee has
Changing the penalties.
put all this together.
I thought
Now
we
you're
did.
waiting for the
I
allocation.
have a new penalty.
Yeah, there is a change.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think you guys did.
Is that in this?
So-
No, it's not
Since we
regularly
passed
on the
that,
agenda,
we'll
that's
go on
the,
to the next.
that's the,
Mr. Chairman?
that's the revision.
Table
That's
that.
on this.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
ask a question?
Director Bond.
Of Mr.
Yeah.
Mason. Yeah. Bill, I'm really concerned about the wells. And I gotta find out how we're gonna get more water in the system from the wells. What would it take to be able to pump 2 wells at a time into the system?
An immediate $100,000.
Okay, is that what it takes, $100,000?
That's just off the top of my head, immediate.
Okay.
We could spend in electrical design and programming an immediate $100,000.
In the interim, is there anything else we can do?
Besides staffing Chad down there 24/7.
Then I would suggest the finance committee start looking at it.
Well, he asked a question. We have.
I'm gonna have to go get more water out
We've
of those
applied for
wells.
funding, to achieve just that.
Yep, that's good.
And
It's some really expensive water.
It is expensive water, but look at the
It might be
future.
more than
The
city
future is
red
what
water.
you're looking at right now.
It's not the same.
if we were to
We
spend.
may get a wet year here and there, and thank goodness we get one, but for the most part, you're looking at this in the future. And the only way we're gonna get water is to get it from the wells, because we ain't gonna get it from the Bureau of Reclamation.
Then why
Except
pay the
on wet
winner?
years.
Except for wet years, and we'll take it when we can get it. But most of the time, we're not gonna be getting it.
It's a good motto to live by.
Take it when you can get it.
Additional sources, we should be looking right now at additional sources.
Anyway, my suggestion is start working on getting those.
Okay, so we had a motion and
Okay,
an
that-
approved
Yeah, so that's the way.
waiving of the penalty, and we're all gonna take a knee and hope to God
Water gods.
the wildfire doesn't burn us up. And then with respect to well, when we know our water allocation, we're gonna hold a special meeting to approve a new drought rate, to get that on the books ASAP. We could do that.
In short.
I mean, instead
So
of
we're
wait,
gonna-
I mean, or we can wait right, I don't wanna wait right up to the billing and be all
No,
caught.
we're
in
gonna do it as fast as we can, we're just waiting
Issue.
for that number, 63 point, whatever he said.
Distribution.
We're gonna put that into the proposal to the board, we're gonna have a special meeting to bring that to the board for consideration.
Yeah,
That's where we're at.
okay, that makes sense.
It would be prudent to have the committee continue into all of March and even April and stay within that 29, because we're gonna need the allocations in July and August, September. Higher use months, so that as long as we can stay in that 29 or close to it, the better chance we have of not running out in September and having to scramble.
That could potentially affect the percent. That could affect the percent that's allocated after we have it released, so, yeah,
And then what are you gonna do
the-
with customers who use 500 units in a month?
500 ACF. This,
Do we not have a shop on that?
in May, after, well, this
Well,
month,
August or July, you know, it's agreed with the previous users who don't care.
we did adjust the drought rate to ramp up the top tier penalty. But the chance of folks going beyond 75% at that level, at the cost, when they're paying the actual cost of the water, which they will be, not some
I saw
subsidies.
somebody who didn't care.
Yeah, and there is in the drought ordinance, the drought penalty ordinance, the ability for multiple infractions to turn off, to address it that way. And you send them a letter, and yeah, that's part of what, you know, Bill does is the interim GM.
Temporarily. You guys are running out of time.
That's right, I know, 6 months, how many more months do we get to dally?
Two months for a review, right?
Yeah.
And then. So
Gotta
then,
be in June.
essentially.
Good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. March, April, May, 3 months. Oh, 14 weeks.
So,
Can we continue?
Can we table the rest?
where are we at?
Bees. General condition policy
You're hanging in there
modification.
well. All right, so, we covered that last month. Why is this back on the agenda?
Because we just went over it, this is putting that wording into the policy itself so that we can approve the policy.
Right.
Okay.
Just bringing it up.
Yeah, okay. So it's the proposed modifications have been captured, memorialized in new documents, and so the action would be to approve those.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Did you wanna make some comments about those?
Okay, well,
I do have some.
I tried to put in all of the wording that we had from before. I left everything else the same except under, petty cash. The petty cash amount was raised by the board to $300, it still said 200, so I changed the 300 to 200. Other than that, it's, just, the board of directors and the committee structure is the only thing that's changed.
I had a couple of comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
A couple of additions or corrections or whatever. On page 1, it says each director must receive training every 2 years in the Brown Act and in ethics. You also have to have sexual harassment training.
Okay, again, I did not change this stuff, if we, I only changed the committee structure and committee.
You have to have sexual harassment training too.
I wonder if you received it somewhere else, whether or not that would count.
Well, you gotta document it that you had it.
Yeah.
I would imagine it would.
And then under page
Okay,
2,
okay, so, I wanna get the recommended changes so that we can get this
Okay.
out of here, so each director.
each director must receive training every 2 years in the Brown Act, that's true, ethics, and sexual harassment.
Okay.
How about harassment general?
Yeah.
General.
That's just for the public. Yeah, that's for the public.
That's called support.
Okay.
On page 2, on page 2, under accounts payable management, there's a sentence here that doesn't read right.
Well,
Under-
again, I did not adjust that, I did not go through this whole document, there's a lot of stuff we can do.
Yeah.
But I don't know that, like I said, if we're gonna get into that kind of review, then I wanna, withdraw this
Well,
and look at it.
Well, I only have 2.
Well.
Hopefully one more.
We haven't been.
And there's a sentence here that doesn't read right.
Okay, so where are you at?
It's under overview, and there's a sentence there that says, the amounts recorded and based on original vendor invoice for the goods or services.
Okay, yeah, that's not sense.
It must be amounts recorded and are based on the original vendor invoice, I would think. Just, makes sense that way.
So that would be changed. Can we, that's a minor, we can still adopt it without
Well,
minor change?
I don't know, I said, what I wanna do is go over the stuff that I actually changed so that we can get that approved.
Yeah.
If we wanna go through the rest of this.
No, let's do what you focused on, plus
yeah,
those 2
yeah, I mean,
items.
I don't have any other changes. I do have a question about, at the bottom of page 6, it talks about documentation of all changes in payroll status shall be maintained in each employee's personnel file and on the individual employee status screed of the payroll software. What the heck is a screed?
Beats me, like I said, that's beyond the scope of what I did.
I've used a screen to level
A
cement.
full redo, we can do a redo.
And I don't know what that, I thought maybe it might be a
Screen.
finance term or
No.
auditing term or something like that.
Look at it.
Employee status screed.
Did you look the word up and,
Yeah, I know what screed means.
okay.
I have, and it doesn't
You've only
make
been called
sense.
that a couple times in your life.
I know what screed means, but I don't know how it applies to this.
Maybe it's a typo.
Could be, well, if it's not screed, what is it?
Workshop plans.
Status,
Payroll screen.
screen of the payroll software.
Notes.
Screen, yeah, it could be. Annual employee status, it's screen, probably screen,
All right,
of the payroll
so-
software.
All right.
That's what it
And
is.
that's your last,
That's my last one.
That's
That's
your last
what
one?
it is, it's screen, of course.
I don't know what page you're talking about.
all right.
There you go.
And if we start getting into that, there's all kinds of crap on this.
Yes, there is.
All right,
I mean, it's,
it's a mess.
yes, it's a mess. What page or whatever is that
The screen.
correction on?
Page 6. What happened on there?
Yeah.
Changes in payroll data.
Screen, that's what it is, computer screen. Screen.
All the way down to the page.
Well, I'm trying to find the page.
Where's that one? What the heck is that?
They're not even numbered. Beverly,
So,
Okay,
Mom,
what, just, what?
Courtney wants to get this part done.
probably screen.
Screen.
Status screen.
I think that's what it was, screen. Now you read it, because they're referring to the computer.
Okay. All right, can we get back to what I proposed here?
Yes, please.
All right.
We made the 3 extra changes and now we'll move on to yours.
Okay.
Move the wheel.
All right.
What you've got.
Okay, again, like I said, we just changed under the board of directors, they wanted to add some responsibilities, so that was contacting the government officials and appointing the representative for Aqua JPIA. We now have just the 4 committees, and the committee responsibilities should be what we agreed to in the last meeting. So,
I concur with that. So do we have a motion regarding the
Do we have a
changes?
public discussion
Oh,
public?
yeah.
This again?
Yes.
Beverly, go ahead.
so I take exception on page 1 at the title, it says reviewed February 22nd. You either need to say updated or modified, because you've done more than just review it, you've made changes.
It's a good suggestion.
okay, the reason I did that is because that was the word they used on all the ordinances as a review date.
You could say reviewed and modified on February 20th.
Like, this ordinance would be
Revised,
different than-
yeah.
This would be different than the rest of them.
Oh,
They,
okay, well,
they say reviewed, they don't say modified.
But you've changed them. You
All
see,
of these things were modified, that's why there's a change in date.
Okay, so they were all put wrong, start with this one and make it right, revised,
I'm okay with that.
All right.
it's not difficult.
I understand the meaning of it.
I think a revised does make sense.
Okay, we can.
Let's use
Thank you.
revise instead of review, because you might review it any number of times and nothing changes.
Yeah.
exactly, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's see, where are we at here? Well, all right,
Need a motion?
do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the changes.
I'll
To the
second that.
administrative policy, the general administration policy.
With corrections.
With corrections.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do we want to, have a quick EAGSA report?
Well, I'll give you a real quick one.
Please.
Okay.
This was supposed to be based on a meeting that was supposed to be today at 2 o'clock. I misread it, it's next month at 2:00.
Okay, good.
So,
That's-
we don't have
Past that.
anything there.
Nothing to-
Operations and administration, we're moving on to number 7. Bill, A, B, and C, maybe just take those in sequence?
We hired a new clerk and a bookkeeper for the office, Jennifer Mitchell, who is a resident out here, and Christy Sartori. Yeah. From a neighboring agency is our new bookkeeper.
Christie, not Kristen.
Christy.
Christie Sartori,
Uh-huh. So we're up to 9 total employees.
she's the bookkeeper.
What's her name?
Christie.
Full evidence.
Christie.
It's a.
Yeah,
Yes.
and who's the other person, the
The old
administrative assistant?
Jennifer Mitchell's
Wow.
the clerk.
Part-time clerk.
Oh, okay,
Part-time
temp clerk, okay.
And so we're up to 9 total employees, and the general manager would be the next addition to staff. We're working on posting funds for the arrears program to customer accounts. We've posted 39,000-ish so far. And those letters notifying the customers go out soon. We're working on filing FEMA funding. We're working on filing a time extension for the backwash pond project with FEMA. FEMA has specific criteria that needs to be met in order for that to be approved. That letter actually already went out since I wrote this. So. Another thing that's not on here is we applied for reduced fees through State Water Resources Control Board. Normally we pay $15,000 in fees every year, and we're gonna pay just around $6 now.
That would be for groundwater pumping, right?
No, that's, Resources Control Board. The groundwater pumping was through, state taxes and fees. That was different. This is just for fees for the district.
Wow. Yeah, and so their rationale for what, the reduction was
Because we're disadvantaged, severely disadvantaged community.
very good.
Because what?
Disadvantage.
Oh.
Good, and so how'd that work out, Bill? What put you onto that, request for reduction in fees?
I believe somebody sent me the form, the packet. I don't know if it was one page or multiple pages, but
Okay. Is that
somebody from Division of Drinking Water sent it to me.
and we can do that every year?
I think so.
Okay, as long as we stay forward. Well, I mean, that's what it's a reflection of, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The general condition.
Yeah. Meter reading software, staff has been working with Fry and Badger to scrub the file, duplicates and other bugs. Wells and booster station, staff now has the wells and booster station active. We did some minimal flushing of dead ends to improve some water quality, that was last week. Water treatment plant, we recently completed an inspection of filter 7, and after a lengthy disinfection process, we will attempt to put it back online after a series of tests. If this filter fails, then a recommendation will be brought to the board for consideration. We're looking for funding opportunities for some larger items at the water treatment plant. Smaller repairs and control updates can be done in-house. And we'll be pulling into a list for the finance committee to consider bringing to the board. How exciting.
That is good, that's just
You're gonna love it.
Easter.
The maintenance that needs to be done.
Water transfers, we covered this already. We don't expect any water from the Bureau. Contact was made with McConnell Foundation, and we'll get some water from them, but the amount has still been undetermined. I would imagine that the city of Reading will wait for the Bureau allocation before they can answer our request, and that was confirmed by the city. They emailed me. And then customer water bills. Customers that are more than 60 days past due will begin to receive letters in the mail about enrolling in payment plans. Failure to reply to the letter after 30 days or not following a payment plan will result in termination of service. This is all part of the new legislation. These letters will start to go out after the arrears have been applied and the reporting of the state is complete. So we're doing this in steps. We're under the gun with the arrears program. We have 60 days to get it done. And then 4 or 6 months to get the money back to the state, and then we'll work on the next.
Is that the 166,000?
136.
136,000.
I thought we got a grant for 166.
No, no grant.
No,
Didn't you bring that up like on the Zoom meeting?
no, we received a check for 139,000. We applied for a little bit more than that. And so now we have to,
adjust the penalty.
since we applied for it,
More rapidly
and
than-
to when we got the check, people,
The
the
process.
customers paid their water bill.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be some leftovers.
Well, that's
Because
good.
it's
Then
not
we'll
gonna
at least know
qualify
how
anymore.
hard to hit the brakes. and
So we have to send
get
that money
in
back.
place.
Could you, account some of it into staff time?
We can apply for staff time separately.
Okay. Including volunteers?
Did we send out the ag report yet, that we're supposed to fill out?
No, I'm working on that still, on
Okay.
top of everything else. We've done some notification. Worst case scenario is we could put one in the bills, but we're trying to get their own batch going out.
Okay.
If I may, I want to mention one thing. The state of California has come up with we've talked about this before, about helping low-income people with their water bills. The state of California has come up with a grant process to do that. Through the California Department of Community Services and Development. It's called the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, LIWAP, what they call it. And it works in conjunction with the COVID thing, in that if there are people out there that are having trouble paying their bills in arrears, this money, approximately 87 million bucks, will help to do that. It's not meant going forward to do that on a going forward basis. It's just for arrearages. And the program will start in May and go until next August.
That information is actually on the mailer notifying the customers that we applied arrearages money to their bill. And if they have outstanding, then the CHD, the information you just said, is actually on that letter.
Okay, they will have to apply, the customers will have to apply.
On their own.
We have to apply to be, we do. According to this, you have to, we'll talk about that later. Anyway,
Yeah,
Fair enough. All right,
Deep breath.
that brings us to the end of our agenda.
No,
No.
And B and
we
C.
have B and C.
We just talked about B and C,
No,
No,
we
we
did
didn't.
not.
didn't we?
We didn't
No.
agree.
Oh, under 7.
Yes.
I was still up on 6.
Any questions and public comment?
Just seeing who's awake.
Not you.
Okay, so we'll have questions and public comments. My standing committee reports after that.
Yes, I have a report.
Okay, well, we'll follow the agenda. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have 3 questions. One being the closed session being first instead of after. Your time is here regardless. A lot of people they left early. We had a couple people leave early. So I don't know if there was any advantage to that, just in fact.
yeah, we did it because we had to pay the lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh,
We don't want her.
so,
I don't think she'd show up at 10.
the question we had, or Galen had, is, and she checked with somebody, is regarding the pending litigation. Is it actually pending litigation, or is it the threat of possible litigation? Because if it's pending litigation, you're supposed to give us the name. So we just wanted clarification.
We'll clarify that for the next board meeting.
Okay, because if it's the threat of possible litigation, you don't have to. This question is for Bill. Bill, we're still being charged the CVP fee?
That was just brought to my attention.
Okay,
Bill and I talked about
okay. And so how does that work? If we don't pay it, where does that money go?
I believe at the beginning, when we first secured water from the city of Reading, we thought that there was we were being charged a CVP fee with all the fees. And I think that's how that got left on there, but with the new rate structure and the programming, I understand how it got overlooked when we revamped the system, because that was part of the original plan, was 2.5 cents or
fund
was
for M&I customers.
5 for M&I, and then it's different for ag, was part of the new rate structure. And so that was built into the programming. And so it ended up staying on the customer's bills. And that was just brought to my attention, that it may not need to be on the customer's bills. Most likely not.
Because we're getting the water from somewhere
Because we're
else.
not getting the water from the bureau,
Correct.
but in some of the transfer fees that I was reading at the, when we first found water, there was something on there for something along those lines. But you're right, I don't think it needs to come. End result is, I don't think it needs to come.
It won't change the drought rate though.
No.
No,
So it's on top of that.
yes,
Oh,
it's an extra 5 cents per unit customers are being charged.
Well, where's that money going?
Remember
Yeah,
the
so that's
Trinity
the question.
TV?
Yeah, so where's the money going right now?
General fund.
It better not be. If it's separate on a bill for a different account, it needs to be in that account.
In a bank account or?
Some account, just written us.
Yeah, it's in a sub account.
But it better not be in the general fund.
I'll let you finish.
Go ahead, no,
Sorry.
go ahead,
It's
sorry.
kind of.
I'll pretend I'm
more
listening.
Directed towards.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Just keep it going.
I'm very for it.
Yeah.
For general manager situation, you had the original couple of applicants that had applied, I'm assuming we had sent letters saying that it's a postponement for X amount of time, whatever, have we made base with those candidates saying, hey, we are looking at a more closer timeframe deadline situation, have we reached back out to them to be seeing if they're still interested in the position / refilling the position on the.
I have a question for the personnel committee.
That's a to be done job still.
I just think because it's like February, almost March, and if he's bailing out in June, not literally. I mean,
I thought that was discussed 2 meetings ago and it was supposed to get sent.
Yeah.
So it didn't get sent?
They didn't get sent yet. So
So
it needs to get drafted.
it wasn't
Some
on
kind
the
of a
whole
notice to
business
get
list?
drafted. All right.
Change the topic slightly. In the past, there's been a mid-year budget review, and I don't know that it's been done in the last couple of years, and I think it's.
Is there what?
Mid-year budget review, annual budget, and then mid-year review to see where you're standing. I think that would be an excellent practice to come back and take a look at. And so I would.
This board, not the members here today, 2 of them anyway, about a year ago, passed an ordinance to have a mid-year budget review.
Okay.
We haven't had one.
You haven't had one?
We have not had one.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, I would like to have one too.
Talk to them about it.
Where's your finance?
I have mentioned it several times. I'd like to see a financial report. Bill has got a bit of a problem because we lost the bookkeeper, and for a long time there, we had nobody that could do the books.
We have the police look for them, that were lost.
What?
We didn't have.
Anyway, I wanna see one.
She wasn't in.
And, but I can understand, this man's working hard as he can be.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
All the books were upside, have been upside down
I know.
for quite a while, so and they're just starting to get
They're
settled
too
down,
scary to go over.
so.
Community doesn't know where you stand, right? That's something that would be.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? That is, yeah.
Okay. Can I?
Do you have a public announcement? Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, our cleanup day, we had 16 people come and help. I was gonna call the county and see how much trash that was picked up. We gave out about 30 bags, so I'm assuming they picked up 30 bags of trash. There's still a lot of streets that are really bad. And I don't know how to force people, just go out in the front of your yard and pick up the trash. If everybody would just do that once a month even, our streets would stay a lot cleaner. Anyway, the Ag Committee, we're going to meet on March 16th. And I talked to Bill, and we're gonna do it at 5 p.m. So it'll be here. And then the following Saturday, I've contacted a farmer who has raised vegetables, and he's got an awesome setup, and I would like people to go see it, because he used under his 29, and he was selling vegetables. He was raising, and it's an awesome thing that he has done.
Wow.
And so, I would like to eventually have information for the farmers. How can we get the community to come and buy your produce? This community should be supporting our farmers. Okay, so anyway, the trip to the farm is going to be on the 19th of March, and it's going to be at 9 in the morning. It'll be in the newsletter, and I'll put out bulletins too, and put it on Facebook.
What's the status of the farm trail?
The last year was 2018, and in checking with the farmers, because we sent one to every house, no response. So I stepped out and said, we're done. We ran out of money. We were given $1,000 in 2000, and I made it last until 2018. So, but anyway, so I don't know how, I'd like to give farmers a chance to share how we can be more supportive of ag. So it'll just be an informational. So if you can come, give us ideas, and I've broken it down. There's 3 types of farmers. There's the orchards, there's the ones that have like berries or vegetables, and then there's the animals. So, and there are things available to help people. It's just that we've got to reach in and find out what their needs are. Then we can maybe find something to help them.
More water would help.
Yeah. But this couple are a young couple, and they did some awesome things on their property.
Wow.
Yeah.
John,
Yes.
were they only open when that tent was out in front of their driveway, or could you go down their driveway and buy stuff from them?
No, you can go down the driveway.
Okay, 'cause-
Oh, I don't know if they're selling now.
No, there's nothing there. but
I think they sold everything they raised.
Yeah.
So, but it was amazing, beautiful produce
They
they had.
really knew what they were doing.
Huh?
They really knew what they were doing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They had out there.
Too bad 50 years ago, we might have had that information.
You wanna talk a little bit about the farmers markets you used to put on at the store?
Yes, you know, I've been looking for a place, I would like for us to have a farmer's market here. And we thought we had something going over at the school, and I went to quite a few of those meetings. Well, that died out because the people that were in charge of it went on to other things. We tried to get something started with the house, the nursery at the school. You know, that was given to them, and they don't use it. So we said, could the farmers come and start their, you know, seeds in there? And we said, hey, we could have the kids come in, and we could show them, you know, how to do this stuff, educational. Well, that died because the teacher said, no, we're the teachers, you're not. So, okay. So every time we tried to start something, there was always something that, no, you can't do that. So,
How about your farmer's market over at the store years ago?
Over here,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you're in competition with the store. I mean, you could try, ask again, if they would let us. But there's not enough room there for too many farmers and, you know, for people to come in and buy. So we just, I've been looking into using maybe the community center. But that problem is if they have like a wedding, then, and that's usually on a Saturday. And to me, Saturday would be the day to do it, or maybe even Friday evening. But they want to be able to, you know, of course, we would have to pay to use their facility, so.
How did I go? They just set up across the street from the store and people buy everything before the day's over.
That's right, that's right.
Anything, they'll buy anything that's out of the garden.
So, I don't know if there's a street around we could start on, but they do have to follow the procedure with the county. There are certain rules that they have to follow, so,
And some of them had their scales checked.
yes,
A lot of them get around that by selling by the bag or the box.
right, right. Yeah, there's always a way to get around something, but, yeah. But anyway, so if you can let your neighbors know. And, you know, even the people that have just 2 acres and they're raising something, you know, I encourage them to come. I have a lady who's got 2 acres and she sells her rabbits. So she has an income. She has eggs. So, anyway, so that'll be on the 16th at 5, and then and then the address, and that'll be in the store. Okay, can we go home?
No.
No, don't have a standing.
We done? That's right, standing committee reports.
We sort of touched on that.
You did touch on January's from the finance committee,
Yeah.
Is that it?
but I don't believe the personnel committee met.
No,
No.
And ag committee's gonna be on March 16th, yeah, so the none of the report that I know of from standing committee.
Let's go home.
That's it. With that, I'll adjourn the Good Creek Community Services District Board of Directors meeting.